Hey, Mike with Nerd Problems Gaming here, the channel where we go through the good and bad of everything nerdy to make sure you spend your time on the best of the best. In today's video, I'll be doing a review on Cat Quest 2, so let's get into it. So Cat Quest 2, as you can probably tell, is the sequel to Cat Quest 1, and in this game you take on the role of two kings, one cat and one dog, in an epic quest to try and reunite warring kingdoms between the cats and the dogs. And throughout this journey, you'll take on various villains from both the Cat Kingdom and the Dog Kingdom in search of the ancient weapon, the King's Blade, which holds the power to reunite both sides and defeat the current evil kings. And so this game is a lighthearted action RPG that's full of cat and dog puns and some great action RPG elements as well. Now, this game takes place several hundred years after the first Cat Quest game, and so it is a sequel, so you'll be seeing some familiar faces and abilities and spells as you play. But instead of just being located in Feline Guard, like the first game, it expands into the Lupus Empire, which is the Dog Kingdom. And so the story is filled with different twists and turns as you play, and as the story unravels. But I think the gameplay is really where this game shines. And as you play, you'll explore various different dungeons, take on quests, and level up your characters to fight evil. So one thing that's different about this game is that you actually control two characters. So you can play the game solo mode, or you can play in co-op mode as well. And so like I said, you control one cat hero and one dog hero. And these heroes each have their own different life bar, their own magic. They can equip different items and armor, but they do both share the same experience bar. One thing that's also pretty cool is that you can switch between characters with the press of a button, and it's really fluid as you play. So you can set up each individual character with really their own different play style. So if you want one to be a magic user and another one to be on the front lines attacking and destroying people that way, or maybe a balance of both between each character, you can do that. Another neat aspect too is that since you do have two playable characters, if one does happen to die, you're able to revive them by hovering over their body for a certain amount of time, and then they'll revive and rejoin your team. And so I think this was nice because sometimes in the first Cat Quest game, for example, you might enter a dungeon you weren't really prepared for and you'd instantly die, and then you'd get a game over and have to restart and try that dungeon all over again. Now the game itself isn't really super difficult. Each dungeon you enter into will give you a little notification of the approximate level enemies are at. Now you can certainly go into dungeons way earlier when you are on a lower level and still probably be successful, but it does give you that gauge. Also, it isn't brutally punishing if you do happen to die and get a game over. They basically just bring you back to town exactly where you left off. So you'll keep the experience you gained, you'll keep the money you gained, you'll just have to replay a little bit of the story if you happen to be in the middle of a quest when you died. And so as you play, you can assign different spells and abilities to the different buttons on the controller, and so it makes it a really fluid action RPG that's incredibly fast-paced. And so I like the gameplay of the game. It's really addicting to just jump from one quest to another. But a lot of the game is kind of a fetch quest, pun intended, as you play through and accept different quests from villagers throughout the game. You'll explore different dungeons, and one thing that's a nice addition to this game is that when you go into a dungeon, sometimes there are hidden areas or hidden paths where there's extra treasure available. And in the first game, when you left the dungeon, if you found that it wasn't completed, there'd be a little icon above the dungeon. This game still has that, but what's nice in this game is that when you do get everything you can from a dungeon, it'll say dungeon cleared. So if you haven't seen that yet while you're exploring a dungeon, you know to stick around and look for more secrets, which is nice. Because if you were to leave, the dungeon would reset and you'd have to kill all the enemies again when you came back in. So it can save you some time as you play. I think your second player counterpart also has a pretty good AI as you play. It's obviously not perfect and it could certainly be better. So if you want to play in co-op with another player taking control, you'll probably have an easier time with the game. But it does tend to keep up, and like I said, since you have the ability to switch on the fly between characters whenever you want, it's not really a huge deal if the AI character lags behind a little bit. Also, since you can pretty much take control of the game with one player, I think it's also suited if you wanted to play with your kids or someone younger that isn't familiar with RPGs, where it won't be that much of a detriment if they don't do very well. You can hold your own with just one character, and then again, switch between that character and the other if you run into a situation where you need that. Now, one thing that's a little bit different with this game is that in the first Cat Quest game, when you went to the blacksmith, you would open various treasures and it would be kind of randomized, and then it would level up equipment if you got copies of the same equipment that you already had. Now that still happens to some extent, where if you have a piece of armor and you pick up another copy of that armor, it does level up and become more powerful. But what's neat with this game is that there's separate armor locations and weapon locations, and you can visit these shops and upgrade armor of your choosing. So instead of it being randomized, you can focus on weapons that you actually want to use and level up, which is a little bit more convenient, and you end up saving money instead of wasting it on items you don't want to use. Another addition that I really like to this game is that most of the armor and weapons have kind of secondary abilities that they activate when you use them. So for example, it might be a bonus to your attack, it might be a bonus to your experience that you gain, you might gain gold, it ups your magic. Again, lots of different variety to it. But this is also nice because you can, again, choose weapons that fit your playstyle, whether it be increasing your attack speed or armor that boosts your magic or improves your health, whatever the case might be. You can stick to that armor piece that you like and then continue to level it up and make it more powerful to really fit your playstyle. And so I think this is nice, where in the first Cat Quest game, there's a lot of items that you got that were cool in the beginning that became completely useless, where that doesn't necessarily have to happen in this game, where you can power up the weapons and items that you really like and continue to use them throughout the game. Now again, as I mentioned, there's a lot of fetch quests in the game, but there's also a lot of puns as well. So if you enjoyed that in the first game, there's more of that to come in this game, especially with the addition of the Lupus Empire. So you have the dog realm and the cat realm, and they all have their own unique puns throughout the game thrown in. So if you like that sense of humor, you'll definitely enjoy that within this game as well. And there's a little bit more variety to it as well this time, with the addition of cats and dogs. Another thing that I liked with the game is that they expanded the map feature, where in the first game you could zoom out a little bit from your characters and see some of the map, where in this game you could move it around the entire world. So if you're looking for specific areas you want to visit, maybe dungeons you haven't found yet or gone through, this can be very helpful in finding new areas on the map. Also, as you accept different quests, there'll be little arrows on the screen that direct you what direction to go to, so it's pretty hard to get lost and not know what's going on when you're taking on a quest. So again, this could be nice for first-time players of RPGs, or maybe younger kids that are playing the game as well. And this can help them keep on track within the game. Now, like I said, the game isn't very challenging, but it is fun to play. But at the same time, when you do beat the game, you unlock a couple additional modes to make the game more fun and more challenging as you play. And so there's a New Game Plus, where you can keep all your equipment and start the game over and play through a second time and make your characters even more powerful. But there's also a Mew game. And so with this option, it makes the game more difficult. You can add in a bunch of different challenges to the game. So it can be things like you only have 9 lives, so you can only die 9 times throughout the entire game. There's a naked mode where you can't use any armor. There's a mode where you can make the enemies harder, and a whole bunch more. And so if you choose to play through in these options, not only does it make the game more challenging, which is probably more fun for more advanced players, but you also can unlock new equipment and items playing through these harder, more challenging modes. So I think that's cool because it can, again, increase the replay value of the game and really just the lifespan of the game in general. This game is a little bit longer than the original Cat Quest. The first Cat Quest took about 10 to 15 hours, and I would say this one is probably going to take you around 15 to 20 hours. But again, if you want to play a New Game Plus or any of the Mew game options, it's obviously going to add a lot more gameplay to the game. So overall, I think Cat Quest 2 is definitely an RPG that's worth playing. It's a ton of fun. Plus, it's a discount RPG. You can get this bundle, for example, of Cat Quest 1 and 2. And I picked this up new, and it was only 20 bucks. It's a great budget RPG that's a lot of fun. It's accessible to all players. I think if you like quirky, pun-filled adventures, this is definitely a game worth picking up. But let me know in the comments below if you've played either of the Cat Quest games, which one you like better. Are you a cat person or a dog person? Let me know in the comments below. And again, if you guys like this video, be sure to smash that like button, as it really helps out the channel. And if you haven't done so yet, be sure to subscribe and turn on the bell notifications to get the latest updates of new nerd videos we put out. And if you'd like to help us support the channel, pick out content and more, become a patron of ours at nerdproblemsgaming.com/Patreon. And if you'd like to plug into our live streams and Let's Plays we do on the channel, you can follow us on Twitch at nerdproblemsgaming.com/Twitch. But once again, thanks for tuning in, and we'll talk to you more soon.